In this tutorial we're going to be learning how to knit the purl stitch and also how to combine rows of knitting and purling to create this beautiful fabric that's used as the basis for a lot of knitting patterns. This fabric is called stockinette or stocking stitch, so let's get started. So for this tutorial I've cast on 12 stitches exactly like we did last week, and then I've done knit stitch for one row, and I'm now ready to do purl stitch. So last week when we learned the knit stitch, we put our needle through the loop of the knit stitch from the bottom like this. For the purl stitch we're actually going to put the needle in through the same loop but from the top like this to make our purl stitch. So grab your yarn and we're going to wrap it around the needle just like we did for the knit stitch, but because our needle's in the front we need to wrap it around over the top of the needle like this. So I'm not bringing it around like that, I'm wrapping it over the top of my needle like this. And then I'm going to use my needle to pull that loop through the knit stitch. Then pull the loop off of the needle. So I'll show you that again. So I'm bringing the needle from the top through the front loop like this. And I'm bringing my yarn up over the top of my needle. You can't see that very well because of angles. So I'm bringing my yarn over the top of the needle like this. And then use my needle to scoop that loop of yarn through there. And pull the loop off of my needle. So, and again my needle's coming in from the top. Then bring the yarn up and wrap it over the top of the needle, then pull the needle down and catch that loop of yarn like that and pull it through. And again the needle's going from the top, then I'm wrapping the yarn around my needle, using my needle to pull the loop through that loop. And now we've done a few stitches, you can see. So when we knit the knit stitch, these bumps are at the back of the needle that we are working. But because we're doing the purl stitch, we're essentially doing the knit stitch backwards. So if I show you the front, it's a very different texture. And once we've worked a few rows of this stitch, you'll see how the two textures are very different. So let's work a purl stitch together again. So I'm taking my needle, putting it from the top, underneath that loop, grabbing it, wrapping it around my needle, then pulling my needle up through the loop on my needle and off. And again the needle's coming from the top, grabbing the yarn, wrapping it around my needle, pulling the loop through the stitch and then off of the needle. And again the needle's coming from the top, using the yarn to wrap it around my needle, pulling the loop through the stitch and then off the needle. And again from the top, wrap it around and scoop it up. Needle from the top, wrap it around, scoop it up. Needle from the top, wrap it around, scoop it up. Needle from the top, wrap it around, scoop it up. Needle from the top, wrap it around, scoop it up. So that's our first row of purl stitches done. If I show you the front, you can see how it's a much flatter texture. So to maintain this texture where it's flatter on the front and bumpy on the back, we're going to alternate between a row of knit stitches and then a row of purl stitches. So we've just done a row of purl stitches. So next I'm going to do a row of knit stitches, then a row of purl stitches and then a row of knit stitches. So do a few rows of that and then come back to this tutorial and I'll explain what we've made. So I've knitted a few more rows alternating between knit and purl stitches every row, And this is the fabric we're left with. So the front is nice and flat, and you can kind of see we've kind of got these stacked V shapes. And then on the back of our knitting, it's a lot lumpier, and it looks a little bit like garter stitch that we learned last week, but it's a little bit tighter. So this kind of fabric is called stockinette or stocking stitch, and it's actually one of the most common knit stitches. You might see knitwear in shops that is smooth like this and bumpy on the back. So to cast off in stocking stitch, we need to be on a knit row, and we cast off exactly like we did last week when we cast off garter stitch. So in these two tutorials we've learned how to make a slip knot, how to cast on, how to knit the knit stitch to make a garter stitch fabric, how to cast off, and how to secure our ends. And then this week we've also learned how to do the purl stitch and how to alternate rows of knitting and purling to make a fabric called stocking stitch. Now you might notice that your piece of garter stitch knitting lays lovely and flat. However, you might notice that your stocking stitch is curling like this. So this is just the nature of stocking stitch. You've not done anything wrong. It's because there's more bulk at the back than the front, so it likes to pull the top down like that. To get your piece of stocking stitch nice and flat, you might want to try blocking it, and I have a tutorial all about blocking crochet, and it's the exact same for blocking knitting, so I'll link that up on your screen here, and I'll see you next week for some crochet tutorials.